It had been 20 years since Derek vanished without a trace. In 2005, he was 16, full of life, sarcastic as hell, and always dragging his younger brother Tyler into trouble. The night he disappeared was like any other. He went out after dinner, saying he was just walking to a friend's house a few blocks away. He never came back. The police were called, search dogs, helicopters, news broadcasts, and endless "Have you seen me?" posters filled the town. Nothing ever turned up. No body, no clothing, no cell phone, no leads. Just the silence and a family torn open by grief. Tyler was only 12 back then, and in the years that followed, his brother's absence grew heavier, not easier. It molded his adolescence, shaped his relationships, and haunted his dreams. He stopped talking about Derek by the time he hit college. He stopped hoping. But then came the text. It arrived at 3:17 a.m. on a Tuesday morning in May. Tyler had been sleeping uneasily. He hadn't heard his phone buzz at first. It was the dull glow from the screen that finally caught his eye in the darkness. Bleary-eyed, he reached over to his nightstand and lifted it. The message simply said, Tyler. No contact name, no previous conversation thread, just a single word. At first, he thought it was spam, maybe a wrong number, but his body froze when he saw the number. It was Derek's, still saved in Tyler's phone, unchanged for 2 decades. That number had been disconnected years ago, but now, somehow, it was active again, and someone was using it. He didn't reply right away. His heart pounded in his ears, and for several minutes, he just stared at the screen. Another message came through moments later. I need help. Tyler sat up in bed. Every rational part of his mind told him it was a cruel prank, a mistake, or a hacker somehow spoofing the number. But deep down, he felt something else. A stir in the pit of his stomach, an echo of that boyhood bond they once shared. He finally typed back, Who is this? 3 dots appeared. The bubble pulsed. Then it vanished. Nothing else came that night. He barely slept. By morning, the message thread remained unchanged. He tried calling the number, straight to voicemail. He listened. A robotic message stated the number was no longer in service. Tyler felt like he was losing his mind. But that was only the beginning. The following morning, Tyler sat alone in his kitchen, the untouched coffee in his hand, slowly growing cold. He hadn't been able to stop thinking about those 2 messages. His logical mind reeled for explanations. Spoofing, a data breach, maybe even a cruel joke, but none of them felt satisfying. And deep down, a gnawing sensation clung to the back of his skull, like something was watching him. He pulled out an old shoebox from his closet. Inside were photos, trinkets, and scraps of memory from before Derek vanished. Most of it was junk, movie ticket stubs, a broken pair of sunglasses, but in the bottom corner, he found Derek's school ID from 2005. He stared at the picture. Derek's goofy grin, the shaggy hair, the life in his eyes. Tyler's phone buzzed again. He flinched, almost dropping it. Another text from the same number. It's cold here. His blood turned to ice. The last time he saw Derek, it was a warm summer evening. What did cold mean? A literal place? A metaphor? A trap? He opened the text thread and began typing a response, but before he could hit send, another message appeared. I'm not alone. Tyler's fingers hovered above the screen. This time, he didn't respond. Instead, he did what any rational adult would. He reported it. He contacted the phone carrier, hoping to trace the number. The rep on the other end was polite but unhelpful. That number, they insisted, had been inactive for years. In fact, the system still marked it as retired. No calls, no texts, no registered user. Which meant this should be impossible. He hung up, sick to his stomach. By nightfall, Tyler's paranoia crept deeper. Every flicker of movement outside his apartment window, every creak in the walls felt heavier, closer. At 2:14 a.m., the messages resumed. Tyler, it's really me. I can't see you, but I know you're still there. They won't let me talk long. He stared at the screen. His heart pounded. The messages were fast, as though someone was desperate, like Derek was trapped, rushing to speak before being caught. Another message: "You have to remember the cabin." Tyler's breath caught. The cabin. No one knew about the cabin. It wasn't even a family place. It was a rundown hunting lodge their uncle had used occasionally. Derek and Tyler had gone there once with him when they were kids, maybe 8 or 9 years old. It was buried deep in the forest, half rotted, completely forgotten. Tyler hadn't thought about it in over a decade. Now, somehow, Derek, or whoever this was reminding him. He typed back, finally, shakily. "What about the cabin?" No response. Not that night, not the next day, not the day after that. Just silence. But the seed had been planted. Tyler couldn't shake the thought of the cabin. It became a splinter in his mind, pushing deeper with each hour that passed. He tried to focus on work, on errands, on the news playing in the background, but his thoughts always circled back to the forest, the dirt road, the forgotten lodge swallowed by trees and silence. By the end of the week, he gave in. He pulled out a dusty plastic bin from the closet and rummaged through old documents, finally finding a faded map. Handwritten notes marked the trail they'd once taken. He hadn't driven that far north in years, but the muscle memory returned like a ghost. The winding roads, the highway exits, the cracked gravel path that led into the woods. He told no one. Early Saturday morning, he packed a duffel bag, flashlight, food, bottled water, a first aid kit. He slid his old hunting knife into the glove box, just in case. Something about the silence of the texts, the unnatural way they resumed after 20 years. It left him unsettled. He drove 6 hours north, leaving behind the world of streetlights, gas stations, and cell towers. Civilization peeled away. Towns grew smaller. Trees loomed taller. By dusk, he was deep in the forest. The GPS lost signal halfway up the gravel road, but he remembered the rest. He turned left at the bent mile marker, followed a ditch for nearly 2 miles, and there it was, the cabin. It looked exactly as he remembered. Weather-worn, mold-streaked, half its roof sagging from snow rot and time. The wooden steps creaked under his weight. The door groaned open, hinges swollen from decades of damp air. Inside was dust, decay, and the musty scent of mildew. Forgotten furniture lay where it had once been. A moldy couch, a cracked coffee table, and an old radio eaten by rust. But then he noticed something that hadn't been there before. On the floor, in the middle of the cabin, was a circle of blackened soot, burned perfectly into the wooden boards. Charred, yet neat, like something ritualistic, like it had purpose. Tyler's skin prickled. He circled the mark, examining it. As he bent down, his phone buzzed again. The screen lit up with a familiar number. "You're close." His hands trembled. He typed back, "Where are you?" This time the reply came instantly. "Below." Tyler turned, scanning the room. Nothing. Then his eyes landed on a trapdoor behind the couch. He hadn't noticed it before. It had been covered by a dusty rug. He stepped forward and peeled it back. The handle was rusted, but with some effort, he yanked it open. A narrow wooden ladder led down into darkness. The air that drifted up was cold, not musty or moldy, but sharp, sterile, almost dead. With a deep breath, he clicked on his flashlight and began to descend. The deeper he went, the more unnatural the temperature felt. The cellar wasn't just cold, it was wrong. It was a void, untouched by time or heat. As his feet touched solid ground, the flashlight flickered. Once, twice, then steadied. He stood in a narrow stone corridor. Old, certainly older than the cabin itself. The walls weren't wooden, they were stone, chiseled, ancient. None of this should have existed. Ahead, the tunnels stretched into darkness, and just before it disappeared into shadow, Tyler saw footprints in the dust. Bare, human, heading inward. Tyler followed the footprints. Each one was precise. No signs of struggle, no smudging or drag marks. Just clean, distinct impressions in the dust. He kept his flashlight steady, scanning every inch of the corridor as he moved deeper. The tunnel sloped downward. Gradually, the sound of the world above faded into an oppressive silence. It was like walking into a vacuum. No insects, no wind, no dripping water. Just the crunch of his own boots and the faint echo of breath against cold stone. After several minutes, the corridor opened into a chamber. It wasn't large, maybe 20 feet across. The walls were covered in carvings, etched with something sharp and crude. Symbols, spirals, and what looked like distorted human faces stretched grotesquely. Some of the carvings had fresh cuts, others looked ancient. But what stopped Tyler in his tracks was the wall across from him. Painted in what looked like dark, flaking red were words. "Stay out! He's still hungry." Below it, the footprints continued. He raised his flashlight to the carvings again, and as the beam moved across one of the walls, it caught something glinting. A phone. His breath hitched. It was wedged into a small alcove, an old flip phone, dust-covered but unmistakable. He recognized the model. It was the same kind Derek had back in 2005. He reached out slowly, pulling it free. The screen was cracked, but when he pressed the power button, the screen flickered to life. No service, no SIM. But there was one unsent message on the screen.